will the clerk please call the roll?
Winters,
Here.
Martin, Eckhart,
Here.
Sherman,
Here.
Hannaford, Hamilton, Wallace,
Here.
Stelling.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. Item 4 is discussion and action on the consent agenda. All of the following items which concern reports and items of a routine nature normally approved at city council meetings will be approved by one vote of the council. Any member of the council desiring to discuss an item on the consent agenda may request that it be removed from the consent agenda and placed for discussion as the next item on the regular agenda. It will then be considered separately. The consent agenda consists of the consideration and action on the following items. Item A, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of September 21st, 2020. And item B, approval of claims in the amount of $213,209.22 and payroll expenses of $213,763.40. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Winters and a second by Mr. Sherman to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Winters,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Stelling.
Yes.
Item 6, reports from staff. First one is for the Public Safety Committee meeting on September 21st, October 7th, and 12th, 2020. Mr. Winters?
It's been a pretty busy month for public safety. Back on the 21st, the majority of that conversation centered around the spike in COVID cases within Woods County that was largely attributed to the prison at the time. So we kind of discussed what our current policy was as a city and what changes, if any, needed to be made there. If I recall correctly, coming out of that, we didn't have a lot of changes that we felt needed to be made, but there were some changes in implementation. The city reinstated some of their policies of checking employees for travel history and temperature checks and things like that. Then on the 7th, Fire Chief Miller came in. He discussed the IEBC code. This is a recommendation that's favored by him. The idea being that it would lessen some of the building codes for business owners when they're making smaller modifications to their business location. It wouldn't apply in every circumstance, but it could be helpful for some. So that was something that we considered, and I believe that's moving on to ordinance. Planning. That's right, Planning Commission. That's going to review that to see if that's a change we do want to proceed forward with. We also, there was a new home that's getting built out on Oak Street. At the end of the street, it wasn't designed for the emergency vehicles. They have to have a way to turn the fire truck around, and that street just kind of dead ends. So there's several options that we had available to us. The one that was recommended by Fire Chief Miller was what's called a hammerhead. It's basically a T at the end of the street that allows the fire truck to then come around, back up, and turn around at the end of the street. So that's something we're going to have to move forward with and budget and plan for. And then the final part of that meeting there on the 7th, we are presented with the one proposal we received for the RFP that we sent out, as well as 3 different billing companies for consideration that were provided to us to go through. We decided then that we needed some time to go through all the materials we were given. So we set up another meeting then on the 12th, which is where we actually discussed all of that information. The RFP that was submitted to us is on the later agenda items, so we'll discuss that more further later. But in regards to the billing companies that were presented, there was one that was recommended by Director Dennis. Quick Med Claims, they're based out of Texas. They charge basically a flat 6% of revenues collected and provide a lot of other benefits, one of which we've had a real struggle getting reports out of our current billing company of what's been billed and what's been collected and all of that. They provide a portal where staff can go in and pull on-demand reports out of that system. They provide a payment portal for the citizens. When they get a bill, they can pay their bill online. Of the three considered, they were the only ones that offered that. They also provided us with a breakdown on what they expected our billing would look like and what our expected revenues off of that billing would look like. Their turnaround times and billing and what that looks like, their submissions to insurance and the time that takes. It was a really, really good proposal. And that was the one that we came out of the recommendation for. I believe we submitted that for a contract, and we're waiting on that back, and then that'll be put forward for approval, I believe, before council, correct?
Yes, we're hopeful to have that on the November council meeting agenda.
And I believe that is pretty much everything for my report. If there's any questions?
Council have any questions? Thank you, Danny.
Mm-hmm.
Item B is the Alva Recreation Complex Board Special Meeting on September 23rd, 2020. Mr. Sherman?
We met regarding the roof replacement, found out that the entire roof would be replaced by insurance, and so the board agreed to go out for bid for the roof, and then we also agreed to go out for bid for 3 additional issues, including windows and sidewalls and replacing those fans across the back side of the ARC gym side.
Not replacing the fans.
Not replacing, but removing, yeah, filling in those holes. So, and that was pretty much it.
Council have any questions for Brandon? Thank you. Next item is the Airport Commission special meeting on September 24th, 2020, and the regular meeting on October 13th. On the special meeting on the 24th, it was to conduct interviews with candidates for the airport manager position, and we did come out of that with a motion and approval for Derek Corson to be our new airport manager, and so Derek has been on the job since then, or he was on the job kind of helping out before then, and we did get him approved for that on the meeting on the 24th. The regular meeting on the October 13th was very light. There weren't any action items on that agenda. We approved minutes and heard reports, so that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions. I will let you know that the ODLs, which is the omnidirectional approach lighting that's going in out there, it's currently underway, and that seems to be going well. Anything changed, Eric? Still going good?
Yeah, everything's on schedule.
Okay. And that was funded through a grant, primarily. We had, I think, a 10% match on a $300,000 project. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you. Next item is the Hospital Authority meeting on September 22nd. Dr. Hannaford's not here. He gave that report.
I didn't receive any minutes.
And I've slept since then. So we'll skip that. We'll go to the library board meeting on October 5th. Mr. Eckhart.
I was unable to attend, but I do have some information. Most of it's just pretty straightforward. Since the library has implemented the fine-free policy, checkouts have actually gone up. Overdue materials have actually been reduced. They actually had more stuff returned on time than they did previously. And then they're in a more timely manner when they're due. And if you're unaware, you can actually set it up with your phone. And if you have an overdue book, they'll send you a text message. And all you have to do is say renew or whatever, and they will literally renew that material for you over your phone. You don't have to go to the library and do it. So it's a really handy, I just used it a couple hours ago for my daughter. So really pretty handy tool there. They're continuing the inability to have the after-school programs, which were very popular. So they're still having the Explorers bags and things like that they get put together. So school-age children can still go in there and get those monthly bags. They have different activities, games, stuff for them to do in there. They did get their new computer finally, their new staff computer, which they've been waiting on. It is probably installed now. They were waiting on a file transfer because they had to transfer all their material from one to the new one. They were afraid that if they didn't get that done soon, they were going to lose a lot of material, so that should be completed by now. They are working on some ideas for groundkeeping. They had some issues with the weeds and stuff that were sprayed this year. It didn't take very well, the weed control, so they're working on some ideas with that. And that was just about it. So.
Council have any questions for Chris? Thank you. Next item is the Finance Committee meeting on October 14th and 19th, 2020.
Talk about REAP grant.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, so we talked about REAP grant and what we wanted to try to go out for the grant for, reviewed the survey that was put out by the city. And then on the 19th day, we went over a regular Finance Committee meeting. Currently have $553,000 in the pooled cash, approximately. January 2020, that was $18,400, so we've made great improvements there. Claims on that cash have been reduced by almost $300,000, and our large claims from this month were about $13,000 in bulk fuel, $22,000 in aviation fuel, and $8,600 for asphalt.
Council have any questions for Mr. Sherman? Thanks, Brandon. As far as the mayor's report is concerned, the municipal league did meet and spoke to, approve my position as the District 11 representative on the OML board. I'll have orientation with OML. Their director, Mike Fina, will be up here Wednesday for some orientation with me. If anybody would like, we're going to have that down here at City Hall. If anybody wants to stop by and meet Mike, if you haven't met Mike before, that'd be fine. I was quite a bit more busy in August than I was September and this part of October so far, except for committee meetings. But I have seen at least a handful of 522 district presentations. We'll get another one of those in this evening. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Next item is the city business manager's report. Mrs. Brady. Oh, yeah, I did mean to do that. I will let everybody know that engineers will be on site at the pool this week, Wednesday and Thursday. They're going to be inspecting the current condition of the pool for further recommendations, but public is invited to come watch. They'll just have to, we're going to ask that you stay outside the fenced area in designated areas so as not to interrupt the engineering, what they'll be doing. So now that concludes my report. Thank you.
I don't have a whole lot. Most of what I've been working on this month is our agenda items for tonight. I know it was asked in the previous city council meeting for an update on the arena authority. I visited with Mike Hood today. He wanted to let us know that COVID, that slowed things down drastically. They've been still working to secure financing. They're hoping to have an answer on their financing soon, but the project is still moving forward. Things have just slowed down substantially, especially with COVID. So I think hopefully we'll see some more movement on that. But they have not had a lot of, I don't think they've had any meetings since March to my knowledge. So, but he did say things are moving forward and they are still working to secure their financing. So. The booster pump station on Oklahoma Boulevard, I want to let everyone know that passed its final inspection with our engineers, and that is online now. So as we closed out that project, that is the final project that we had slated for the 2018 bond revenue that we received. We received $1.875 million for water and wastewater projects. So we now need to start visiting with our water wastewater committee to see what our next projects will be. We have about $455,000 left of that bond revenue that we will have to spend on water wastewater projects. We're going to talk a little bit later tonight on the REAP grant project. Looking at drilling some offset wells. We did not receive the CDBG grant funding that we applied for in the spring. There's a few things that we need to do, and we can potentially reapply for that grant this next spring. So we may be able to, get some more bang for our buck as far as those dollars spent, if we can couple that with another grant. So that's kind of what we're looking at, but we'll have a discussion with the Water Wastewater Committee and see what needs to be done, what projects we need to move forward with there. Mayor Parker talked about the fact that we have, the airport commission wanted to move Derek Corson into the airport manager position, so that changes things with our city inspector position. Right now, we're looking at how we will refill that role. I need to visit with the personnel committee on how, what changes we can make, or if we can make some changes there and maybe fill that position in a little differently. So just know that we'll be looking at that. In the meantime, Fire Chief Miller and also Mr. Corson will continue to work through projects and things that come up. So if you have questions, you can visit with them about projects that are going on in the community. We do have some additional open positions in the community. We have a water department position. We have someone retiring from the water department there. We're always looking for EMS staff, so if you know someone who's looking to be more active with their EMS certification, please send them our way. The police department is looking for a police officer, and we have a recent opening for a CDL driver on our sanitation department. So lots of positions currently available. If anyone is interested in applying, you can fill out an application and bring it by City Hall. Really, that's the bulk of what I have for my report. Like I said, most everything that's on the agenda are the things that I've been working on this month. Are there any questions that I can answer?
Council have any questions? Thank you, Angelica. Item 7 is remarks and inquiries by citizens. Public comments will be limited to 2 minutes per speaker, and we will ask that the speaker please come to the podium and identify himself or herself. I will ask that if you're here regarding the next agenda item, the public hearing regarding the addresses being declared a public nuisance, that you hold off until the next item on the agenda, if that's what you're here to speak about. Is there any remarks or inquiries by citizens? Okay, well, thank you. Item 8 is the public hearing to determine whether the following addresses should be declared a public nuisance and constituting a detriment or a hazard, and therefore a nuisance as defined by city ordinance and abated. Addresses are 1002 Church, 1208 Fair, and 1313 Fair. This is on the agenda to allow the public to comment on the declaration or not of a public nuisance for these properties. The property owners have been notified via certified mailings and legal advertisement of this meeting. So, my understanding, all that has been conducted as per required, and there was information in our council package regarding these properties, but right now is the opportunity for the public to have their opportunity to speak, and the council members will listen. Floor is open.
I'm no deputy speaker. My name is Mallory Severs, and I live at 930 Church. And the item that has been listed is across the street from me immediately. I have nothing against Mr. Wallace, but I have lived at that house and that address. My kids grew up there for about 51 or 52 years. And I have worked my tail off, weekends, nights, everything. People that know me know that I laid carpet and busted my rear every year for years and years and years and years. I've had two fake knees. I've had open heart surgery, the whole works, all thanks to the carpet laying. But I thank God that I was able to do it and raise my kids there. People tell me all the time, about how nice my yard looks. That was for a long time until it became a second-hand place, whatever you want to call it. Now people say, boy, you got a pretty junkyard right across the street from you. My wife goes out and she mows the yard every day and busts her rear to try to keep it nice. And people come up and say, boy, your yard looks good. They don't do that anymore. I don't think that's fair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Severs. Are there any other remarks to be made for the public hearing item? There being none, we'll move on to item 9, discussion and action on declaration of public nuisance for the following addresses and authorize staff to take appropriate action to abate the nuisance at 1002 Church, 1208 Fair, and 1313 Fair. If these properties are declared a nuisance and the city is required to abate the property, the city would potentially incur costs for demolition, and that is currently something that we budgeted for $20,000 for the year for dilapidated buildings and other abatements. Go ahead, Angelica.
Derek, would you like to speak on the properties? I think that most of the property owners have been in contact with you, and we have some big plans. You want to visit with?
Yeah. Sorry, I should have took my allergy medicine. All three have talked to me. 1208 Fair, I was waiting on a crusher.
Moved in today.
What?
He moved in.
He moved in today, so, I mean, that's a start, so if the street gets cleared off in the front, 150 foot gets cleared off, or, cleaned into what is zoned to residential, that would be satisfactory. 1313 Fair, I didn't really have a plan. That one is a pretty big home to stray cats, rats, skunks, raccoons. It's just a big mess. So that one, as I know of, does not have any plans yet. 1002 Church, Mark Wallace is planning to build a fence, at least 6 foot. That would kind of cover some of that mess, or, but it's got to clean up the front, possibly move it to the back, but it still has to be used as a residentially zoned area, so everything would have to be brought up to that ordinance. Unless anybody wants to, get a variance for a zone change or get a variance for having a commercial and a residential.
So that's a separate issue for him.
Yeah, that's separate.
But he has committed to cleaning up the front yard, correct? And then fencing off the backyard so that it wouldn't be visible from the street. Yes, sir.
Can I speak?
You may.
I'm Mark Wallace. I own the property at 1002 Church. It is, I have materials coming basically this week. I am going to fence what I can legally fence. I visited with Derek about where fences have to be, how close to the front, because I'm on a corner. Will be 6 foot, should block about 80% of the property from vision. Have already moved quite a bit on the front. Some people may not think so, but I have. And I'm currently working on doing that. But just to clear up a couple things. Drive by, take a look. This is not dilapidated buildings. This is not non-running vehicles. This is not piles of tin and appliances and scrap iron. This is not piles of leaves. I spray for weeds, I mow, I weed eat. There are lots of personal items being stored there. So that is my current plan.
That was the question I was gonna have. From a structural, the building itself is structurally sound
Yeah.
and,
The building's fine, it's just not give up to, I mean, there's a fine line between decorations and then just stuff, you know.
And just to be clear, we're not declaring that building
No.
dilapidated. This is just declaring a public nuisance.
okay.
And our action on these items, if we declare a nuisance, and Rick, you can correct me if I make a misstatement, but by declaring the nuisance or the dilapidated structure, whichever is applicable to these addresses, it puts the weight of our ordinances into effect that if the property owners don't abate those nuisances or dilapidated structures, then we'll have done the first step in our process for making sure that's carried out in the future. So,
It authorizes the city to take whatever actions necessary to abate the nuisance if the owner doesn't.
So if they get it up to our code, then we do nothing, essentially.
How long does that, say they do satisfy to a point this time, but yet it reoccurs? Does it
It's a bid new issue.
have to come back again?
We're not, well, we wouldn't have to do anything within the next 6 months, we could just go ahead and abate that nuisance again.
How long does declaring it a nuisance last? Until it's abated, or once it's
Until it's
abated?
abated.
Once it's abated, it's done, so whoever does it cleans it up, then it would be, that's your point? I mean, if he does it next week, then the nuisance part of it's over. Okay.
For that specific, Megan Caldwell, sorry, for that specific property, what is the residential ordinance that's being violated? Like what parts of?
it always happens. We had the public hearing part of it. I allowed Mr. Wallace speak as the owner of that property. I'm going to keep this moving on. Mr. Scribner?
I'm Jim Scribner, owner of Scribner Salvage at 1208 Fair. We are cleaning up, and all of it didn't get there in a day, so it's not all going to leave in a day. In fairness to Mr. Slarb, who I guess chose not to be here, he has talked with the guys that are crushing mine, and if they get some kind of an agreement, then he'll take care of his that way, and if he doesn't reach an agreement, then I don't know what he will do. But anyhow, we're doing the best we can for the shape we're in.
Thank you. Council have any other questions? I'd entertain a motion.
I'd make a motion to declare the following addresses and authorize staff to take appropriate action to abate nuisance: 1002 Church, 1208 Fair, 1313 Fair.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Stelling, a second by Mr. Sherman to declare public nuisance constituting a detriment or hazard and therefore a nuisance as defined by city ordinance and abated. 1002 Church, 1208 Fair, and 1313 Fair. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Stelling,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Item 9 is discussion.
You're on 10.
I'm on 10 now. 10 is the 522 board presentation. Director Dennis. I've asked Director Dennis to come and give this presentation because I know that there have been some conflicts with council members being able to get to some of the meetings that they've held. So you'll get all the information now.
I'm better with things back here instead of up there. I'm doing this number back and forth.
Well, I figured this would be, give everybody the ability to see.
For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Julie Dennis. I'm the director of Alva Ambulance Service. but I am presenting this tonight as a member of the Woods County 522 Task Force. We are a group from Alva and Waynoka and Freedom. We had all three agencies and cities come together and decide it is time for us to move forward with the 522. We'll start out with what is a 522? On the ballot it says EMS districts, or Emergency Medical Services District. 522 is just the state question in which the Emergency Medical Services District was put back in 1976. So this is something that isn't new. This is something that's been around for quite some time now. But instead of every time we want to say it, we say Emergency Medical Services District, we say 522. It's just an abbreviated version. So they're interchangeable. We can use them in both ways. In 1976, this was passed, and it was added, it was amended to the Constitution in Article 10, Section 9C, if you want to read it. It's not real fun to read, but it lays out all the information. And it says that a district must follow the boundaries of a county, a school district, or an incorporated city or town. We chose, as the task force, we chose to move forward with the countywide district, which is not the same as a countywide service. In the Constitution, though, it states that the proposed district is formed to establish an annual reoccurring ad valorem tax levy of not more than 3 mils per dollar assessed on the valuation of all taxable property in the district for EMS operations. It is capped at a 3 mil ad valorem, meaning in 5 years, if we come back and we say we aren't getting enough funding from this, we need to increase it, we cannot. It is in the Constitution that says it is capped at a 3 mil levy. And it's on taxable property, so it's on real estate property and personal property. A question that we get asked a lot, hold on, before I go there, the proposition itself. This is how it's going to be on the ballot. There's a handout up there next to the sign-ins if anybody wants one of those that has the proposition put in there. Legal mumbo jumbo, I really don't like reading it, I don't have your job. But it essentially, when you break it down and cut out half the words, you get, do the citizens of Woods County wish to form a countywide EMS district that will levy a 3 mil ad valorem tax for the purpose of providing ambulance coverage to the entire county? The funds from this tax will be allocated to the existing EMS providers based on the service area on file with the Oklahoma State Department of Health. I don't know where our map went, but
It's over here.
I don't think it's in that handout, but yeah. I mean, this right here is our county boundaries. The gray is Alva's service area, the pink is Waynoka's, and the blue is Freedom's. So it's saying the funds that are accumulated in Alva's territory go to Alva. Where the funds generated out in Freedom's area, it goes to Freedom's EMS, and the same with the pink for Waynoka. We put it specifically like that so that we were being allocated funds of the areas that we cover. The next question that we get asked is, how much is this going to cost me? How do I figure this out? You can do your formula that they put out here for you, or, which that's in the handout, or if you have an estimated market value of your house. If your house is valued at $100,000, you can see it's only going to cost you $34.50 a year. To secure and stabilize EMS, that's a very small amount. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is if you get your tax receipt from the treasurer's office, you can look on there and look at, it's the VOTEX, that's 3.14, 3.17 or something like that. You can look at that and you're going to see that it's very similar to what you'll be charged if the 3 mil ad valorem tax passes for EMS. You can see that it'll be very similar to that number. And then we go back to how will the funds be divided, back to our county and into the service areas. What can 522 funds be used for? it has to be for the EMS agency. This money cannot be redistributed to other departments or other projects. It is solely for EMS. It can go to pay for personnel, materials and supplies. It can be our operating cost. It can be for capital equipment. It can be for training, but it has to be for EMS. So that helps. This was what they made the Constitution for, was to help stabilize EMS. And this it ensures that that money goes straight to us. It is solely ours. About the 3 agencies in our county, for Alva Ambulance Service, we are a paid full-time service. We are funded by sales tax and EMS charges. In 2019, we had approximately 1,000 runs, and you can see our numbers. We're working on our side of it to fix what we can, but even if we fix our billing and fix our other shortfalls, we're still going to be in the red. Hopefully we can knock that red down some, but that's where these funds come in. These funds come in and help fill that gap that has been occurring since it's about 1999 was when we started our Medicare, Medicaid cutbacks. And those cutbacks have been continually hitting and continuing to decrease on what they're reimbursing. And with the Medicare cutbacks, private insurance companies follow that suit. And so if Medicare's paying less, the private insurance is going to pay less, which puts a larger hole. Then you add in there the fact that our operating costs, our materials and supplies, that stuff's not getting any cheaper. That stuff's raising every year, and this gap keeps going further and further away. So we've got to figure out a way to close that gap, and this is one of the ways that we can help close that gap for us. For Freedom EMS, Freedom is the only ambulance agency in the state of Oklahoma that is a true volunteer service, meaning they do not pay their medics. That is, they volunteer and donate their time. They do not charge for runs. Their ambulance goes out and picks up somebody from a crash, there's no billing. They are solely funded by donations. If they have to get a new ambulance or a new cardiac monitor, they have to go out and they have to have fundraisers and ask for donations and seek donations. They have survived this long that way, but they're struggling out there too with being able to continue to provide their services. Waynoka Ambulance Service is a paid volunteer service. They are funded by sales tax, EMS charges, and a mandatory subscription that's on their utility bill. Even with those 3, they had 200 runs, approximately 200 runs. You can see that they still fall into the red also. So this is where the 522 comes in and helps Waynoka. The reason that we chose to go county-wide on this 522 is because Freedom is important to us. Waynoka is important to us. We've all got to have each other because we can't lose another service. Without them, we're not going to be able to be the same way that we are right now. For the progression of events, I skipped the first step on this. It started out as the task force, and we came together and we decided it was time to move forward with it. This wasn't our first time to come together and talk about a 522. This is nothing new for us. But this is the first time that we actually came together and agreed that if we don't go forward now, it's not gonna be the right time ever. So we decided to go to the county commissioners and they said, okay, if you're ready to go forward with this, we'll move forward. So they put their resolution and passed the resolution to put the vote of the 522 district to the vote of the people. So we are here now with the citizens of Woods County. A no vote means we're dead in the water, we're going back to the drawing board. We've got to figure out something else to do. If a yes vote, that's the passage of a 3 mil ad valorem to help supplement the existing EMS agencies. From there, it's not just a blank check to us. It goes back to the county commissioners at that point. The county commissioners will then select a board. They'll put together a board of 5 to 11 members, and this is a volunteer position. They don't get paid for it. If anybody's interested, if this passes, let me know. But this board is extremely important. because once the commissioners select their board, this board is the one who will establish and enact our bylaws. They're the ones that will set the requirements on us. They are the ones that maintain the accountability for these funds. They're the ones that we have to answer to and give back our receipts and everything to them so that they can be held accountable for those funds. But at that point, it doesn't stop. We aren't just accountable to them. They are accountable to the state auditor and inspector. So there's a line of accountability that goes all the way up and can be tracked back down to where did all these pennies go? This is the taxpayers' money, and we have to be held accountable for it. And that's why there's the line of accountability there. Advantages of a 522 district: it forms a constant funding stream for operations. It will allow for funding of capital equipment. It allows a little bit more flexibility in our organization and management. Forming this district can also increase the cooperation and coordination between Waynoka, Alva, and Freedom. It can allow us to work together more and be more prepared for unexpected disasters and allow for more effective coverage of our county. Why do we need it? We need to spread the cost of maintaining EMS over the entire county. Currently, we're funded by city sales tax. This helps just spread it out and not just make it just the city's responsibility to help take care of us. And it helps cover those losses from the Medicare and Medicaid cutbacks since 1999. Countywide EMS 522 district versus the countywide EMS agency. We aren't going to become Woods County EMS. We are still going to be Alva EMS. Waynoka is still going to be Waynoka, and Freedom is still going to be Freedom. What this is, the 522 district, it's a special taxation district that will contract with the existing EMS agencies, allocate the funds, and maintain accountability for all county tax dollars dispersed. We aren't a county agency, it's a countywide district. The state auditor and inspector, they will come in yearly and do annual audits of the operations of the 522 board in the district. They hold the board responsible for all funds received. They ensure appropriate distribution and expenditure of funds. They double check, and I've met with the inspector. He came out to one of our meetings in the task force, and he was like, no, we ask for receipts. We will go through it and check everything off to make sure that any money that was spent goes straight for EMS, and it has to benefit all EMS. It can't just be this department needs some coffee this month. So they ensure that the tax funds are being spent appropriately. This right here is a map that's EMS people are used to seeing. This is our Region 1. The map originally did not have the purple in it. I went back in and colored in the purple because the original map is from 2010. The purple has been added since 2010. They don't have me a colored map, so I made my own coloring. I might have the school districts a little bit wrong in this part because those are based off of school districts. But you can see that currently Grant County, Texas County, and Woods County are the only three counties in Region 1 that do not have any 522. So we are behind the curve. Being that I'm from Sealing, I called up the director down there and asked him when they enacted theirs. 522 was able to be, it was passed in 76. He said, I believe it was 79. I was like, thanks, you don't help me any on how to promote this. But it's the 522, it's for EMS districts. It's for our EMS and for the county's EMS to secure us for now and into the future. There's a lot of misconceptions, there's a lot of unknowns about this. Don't hesitate to ask. If there's a group you'd like us to come speak at, I'll be happy to go. I've yet to say no to any group. It's something that we need to stabilize our EMS so that we can be here in the future.
I know I've had a couple of questions of people that have asked me, or comments, maybe people say, well, this is, Alva sees this as their fix to their financial problems, and I would say, speaking on behalf of myself, and I would like to say that the Finance Committee, it's one step in fixing the problems that we are currently facing. One step of many. It's not what we anticipate to fix everything for us, but I know I've heard that repeatedly. You know, we're trying to take some steps to move in the right direction, and I feel like this is just one of those.
And if I may, the difference between us doing the whole county versus the school district was the mutual aid. Is that right? Because we all help each other out anyway.
Yes.
As far as like if we need an extra ambulance, or we send an ambulance to the Freedom Rodeo so that they have one on staff and they're not using their only one to just, you know, sit at the rodeo. Or if we have a big accident here, they'll help cover our accident and stuff like that. So.
And it's planning for the future of our county's EMS. It's not just for the little things, because we do that anyways, and we will continue to do that. But it's looking towards the future to help secure those funds to keep those services with us and to help us stay here too.
So, council have any other questions? Thank you, Julie. And if anybody has questions for Julie, I'm sure she'll be around after the meeting, and she's pretty easy to find otherwise. So catch up with her if you have any questions. She knows a lot about this information. It is projected that if approved, that it would mean approximately $320,000 for EMS services provided by the city of Alva. So that's that. It would certainly help. Thank you again, Julie. Item number 11 is discussion and action to decline the request for proposal by Pafford Medical Services to outsource EMS services. Daniel, would you like to? Were you prepared?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we did receive one proposal from our RFP to outsource EMS from Pafford Medical Services. They are pretty widespread, operate in multiple states, several communities within Oklahoma, and I believe Mayor Parker reached out to a couple of them and spoke with them, and they had good things to say about them. From a price standpoint, they actually came in a lot cheaper than we anticipated they would, which was very surprising. Ultimately, though, you know, as we went through and we were considering it and looking at it, there were a couple of things that we considered. One being is their fee schedule is about twice what we currently are billing out. In addition to, they itemize some of their billing that we don't for disposable supplies, oxygen, etc., that we currently do not bill out for. And then when we looked also then at what they were going to charge per month, and then adjusting ours for expected revenues from billing and everything, we were only talking about a few $1,000s more a month for us to continue our operations as they sit today once the billing changes based on the billing estimates we receive from the billing company. So with all of that kind of put together, the cost was about the same for the city, one way or the other, but if we went with Pafford, we would be looking at an increase in cost of services for our citizens when they receive their bill. It would be significantly higher. The one thing that is not considered in that, that we would still be lacking, that Pafford would be able to provide, was the capital improvement outlay. That doesn't factor into that few $1,000s more. That would be additional, and they would provide that as part of their service. But when we look at our billing estimates that we're basing that off of, it's kind of a worst case scenario, because they're all based off of if everybody was billed and reimbursed us at Medicare rates, which is that's the lowest rate that we could be reimbursed at, and assumes a 40% collection, which I believe is about what is standard, what we expect. So with that said, being that it wasn't much more and we feel like we have a lot of ground we can continue to make with our current service, we felt like it was the best decision to maintain that as an in-house service. Continue working towards some of the goals we have, getting the billing company changed, continuing working on bringing down our personnel expenses by reducing overtime. And when it was all said and done, we feel like we can actually operate our own EMS at about the same cost, if not less, when it's all said and done. So for that reason, we feel like we should reject that proposal, at least for the time being.
Angelica, would you care to share a little bit of your conversation with Patrick?
The salesperson, the point of contact from Pafford EMS contacted me. I visited with him a little bit. He had a lot of good things to say about our RFP. He wanted to make sure that he let me know that if at any time we would look at this again to make sure that we asked for the same level of service that we did in our current RFP. He was very impressed by that. He did talk to me about they anticipate some cuts in reimbursement rates coming in January, and so just said to keep that in mind when we're looking at things. Is there anything else that you want me to point out there? Those are the two main things.
Those are the main things.
I just wanted to make sure, he was very impressed with our RFP. I was very pleased to hear that. He had a lot of good things to say about that, and wanted me to make sure that if we ever looked at it again, to not cut our level of service. He asked if he was the only proposal, and I explained to him that we were. We had a couple of the other agencies that had reached out to us had declined to submit a proposal for a couple of different reasons, and we talked about those, and he just said to make sure that you don't change your level of service that you're asking for. He said that was very important in our current RFP.
Something I didn't hit on, just to put it out there, the cost of what Pafford, for the current level of service we currently receive, the subsidy we would be paying them would be roughly $300,000. Whereas after billing changes and everything, the figure cost for us to provide it was around $350,000. And that's assuming worst case collection at Medicare rates. So,
Does the council have any questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to reject the proposal from Pafford Medical Service.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Winters, a second by Mr. Wallace to decline the request for proposal by Pafford Medical Services to outsource EMS services. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Winters,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Item 12 is discussion and action to modify the fees for impounding and keeping an animal at the Alva Animal Pound by establishing a redemption pound fee. My understanding, Chief Orcutt, you were prepared to make some remarks regarding this agenda item?
So it came to my attention through some unfortunate circumstances that our pound fees are lacking. We had an ordinance that was set up in 1974 that set our current pound fees. So I contacted other agencies with pounds that were about our size and just kind of asked what their kind of going rate was, and we were way under. Right now, if your dog gets picked up for the first time and we house your dog, it's $10 plus proof of rabies. If you don't have proof of rabies, we charge $12 for that. So the second time it's $15, the third time is $25. And that doesn't matter if your dog's in there 1 day or 10 days, we charge $25. So after contacting several other agencies, I kind of put together a schedule what I think would be both fair to the city and to our citizens. And with that, I think for the first offense, we should have a pound fee of $25, second offense $35, and a third offense $45. Also added to that a $10 per day cost to you for leaving your dog in the pound, basically. And the reason that we do the $10 per day is obviously the longer the dog's in there, the more the city pays for that dog to be in the pound. And in the past, we've been used as kind of a housing while people go on vacation or whatever. And they come pay their $25, and it's cheaper that way than going to the vet. So the $10 per day does not count over the weekends. So if your dog gets picked up on Friday at 4:30 and you're not able to get your dog out, then Saturday and Sunday don't count. It's just days that you're able to get your dog out. Also, we want to raise the adoption fee to a flat $50 for any adoption. And the adoption would stay after 72 hours or 3 days within the pound. So.
The other thing, just through the circumstances that we had that brought this discussion about, this change in cost will help us keep those animals until a foster home can be found or someone can adopt them. This would keep us from euthanizing the animal because we didn't have a place to send it and it was past its 72 hours of being held, correct?
Is there any discussion on like neutering for after adoption or anything like that?
We haven't talked about that as a city. If they go through the adoption process to most of the organizations that help us, that's one of the things they require. But right now at this point, we're not even discussing that. We have discussed microchipping the animals, so that way we know, the animal, how many times they've been picked up and that type of stuff. And it was fairly cheap to do that, a lot cheaper than what we thought. So we have discussed that, but not neutering or spay right now.
Council have any more questions? Well, Chief, we appreciate your work and research that you put into this and what you're doing to keep our community safe. So, council members, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve modification of fees for impounding and keeping an animal at the Alva Animal Pound by establishing redemption pound fees.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Sherman, a second by Mr. Winters to modify the fees for impounding and keeping an animal at the Alva Animal Pound by establishing redemption pound fees. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Sherman,
Yes.
Winters,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes. Yes.
Stelling, Eckhart.
Yes.
Item 13 is discussion and action to approve resolution number 2020-011, amending the fiscal year 2020-2021 annual budget for the city of Alva, Oklahoma. This is with regard to the grant that we received from Share Trust and the expenses that are going to accompany the engineering for the inspection of the pool. We heard presentation on this at our last council meeting from Mr. Barton of the task force, and this is the budget amendment to accompany that which has taken place. So, are there any questions from the council? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2020-011, amending fiscal year 2020-2021 annual budget for the city of Alva.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Winters and a second by Mr. Sherman to approve resolution number 2020-011, amending the 2020-2021 annual budget for the city of Alva, Oklahoma. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Winters,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes.
Item 14 is discussion and action to approve resolution 2020-012, authorizing application for financial assistance from the Rural Economic Action Plan Fund. As Brandon mentioned in his report, and I think Angelica touched on it as well a little bit, but this is for the REAP grant, which is something that we can pursue annually, and we have in the past. But the three projects that were under the highest level of consideration were an offset well drilled out of the well field, new concrete on 9th Street from Choctaw to Mill, or replacing the skid steer at the transfer station. Finance Committee met regarding this. We had a public survey on Facebook for a short period of time, and the results of each were that we felt it would be more bang for our buck, and it actually will be. It's not just an opinion. If we go with the offset well, our net gain from getting a $50,000 grant on the well would be a net gain of about $35,000 for us after we take out our what we had budgeted for those type projects already. And I think the next biggest bang for our buck would have been the street, and then the skid steer, which were both less than $30,000 of net gain. And we feel like for the purpose of an infrastructure project like this, the Finance Committee discussed it and felt like this would be a long-term solution to some of the water supply issues that we anticipate encountering in the future, and having the offset well drilled would be an appropriate use for this grant application. So we would be using approximately $90,000 from our 2018 revenue bond, which Angelica reported on earlier, which we have a current balance of about $455,000 remaining. And the only other thing I didn't mention is, in addition to the net financial benefit to the city, the offset well would also present the highest score on our application to the refund committee. So, which would mean it would have the highest likelihood of being funded. And so, the recommendation is that we approve the application for the offset well. Anything else to add?
I can't remember if I touched on it earlier, but it was also discussed at the Finance Committee to reapply for the CDBG funding in the spring to help do more than one offset well.
If there aren't any questions, I entertain a motion.
Motion to approve, let me read this. Resolution 2020-12, authorizing application for financial assistance from the Rural Economic Action Plan Fund.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Sherman, a second by Mr. Winters to approve Resolution 2020-12, authorizing application for financial assistance from the REAP Fund. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Sherman,
Yes.
Winters,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Eckhart.
Yes.
Item 15 is discussion and action to approve right-of-way, public utility, and encroachment agreement for ODOT project number J3 1865 004SS. Angelica?
So the next two projects are ODOT projects. This one specifically is west of town. They will be adding shoulders to the highway there, and then there's a hill at the Avard corner, the turn to Avard. They're going to take some of that hill down. I know it's been a high accident area. How this impacts us is we have utilities that are in the right-of-way there, so when they do those projects, they have to move those water and sewer lines that belong to us. They have to move them so that even when they're doing the construction, they wouldn't be driving on top of those water sewer lines. Basically, and Rick, you can correct me if you have anything here. When I talked to the gentleman from ODOT, it basically said this is a formality, state statute, which I included a copy of the state statute in here. Basically, that state statute says that we're responsible for the cost of moving those utilities. However, because we are under 10,000 in population, ODOT covers that that cost to us at 100%. There's a few things that aren't included in that cost. For this project, it's about $1,200. Essentially, this project has not been funded yet by ODOT. When I talked to the gentleman at ODOT, he said once this project is funded, we are 18 to 24 months out to begin construction. So we would be responsible for moving those lines. However, it would be reimbursed to us 100% if we chose to do the project, or we can elect to have ODOT manage that project, and then all we would do is have final approval to say, yes, we agree with that plan to move these lines, and they would basically then do the project for us, which is likely what we would elect to do, considering the size of our staff and how labor intensive that would be. But it gives us some options there. They're just letting us know about this project, and we have to go ahead and approve this agreement, and then, once funding is approved by the state, then they'll let us know, and we'll begin planning for that.
It also allows us to bid it out.
Yes.
By us doing it, we don't necessarily have to do the work
Yes,
ourselves. We
that
can
is
bid it
correct.
also if we want to manage it.
That is correct. It gives us some options on how we would handle that.
You said it would be covered at 100%. In the resolution, it says federal funds have been made available by the Federal Highway Administration through the department and will pay in and pay an amount not to exceed 80% of the actual reasonable and necessary utility adjustment costs.
Yes, when I visited with him, he said because of the size of our population, it would be covered at 100%. So that's their standard agreement for all communities, but because we're under $10,000, if you look through the documents that are in there, it would be covered at 100%.
Okay, I guess I just missed that part earlier.
Well, because we're under 10,000 population, Daniel. So generally speaking, if we weren't under 10,000, we would have costs associated that we would have to cover on our own. And so for this project, I think they're anticipating the cost to move those utilities would be between water and sewer, we're looking at over $300,000, I think $350,000 when it's all said and done to move those, and we would not be responsible for those. There is some small things, like I said, there's about $1,200 that would be included that we would have to pay for. That's like moving utility lines related to our water supply and things like that, that are within our city limits that we would have to move or we would have to change. But we would have to pay for it, not change. We wouldn't move the utility lines, obviously, but we would pay the cost associated with that, which that is at 10%. And that's, like I said, that's about $1,200 for this particular project.
You said that would be, you said 12 to 24 months after funding?
18 to 24 months. So he said if we received funding for it tomorrow, that project would not begin for 18 to 24 months.
Did they have an anticipated time that they would receive funding?
No, it's in their plan, but until that is established, they don't have a deadline, or not a deadline, a time frame. A time frame.
It's their 8-year plan, so it could be 8 years from now.
Yes.
Be 12, something
Yeah,
like.
could be.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, because I mean, some of those other projects like south of town, it was under, whatever your plan, and they're still, it's been a lot more. So it's
Yes.
just,
And once they receive funding, they notify us again, and then that allows us to start the determining factor of if we're going to do the project, bid the project out, or if we're going to allow them to do it at 100%, and give us final approval.
For anybody else that cares, on the statute, page 4, item F is where it talks about population of 10,000 or less. It's 100% covered, so.
Are there any other questions? All right, if there are none, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the right-of-way public utility encroachment agreement for ODOT project number, J3-1865004SS.
second.
Have a motion by Mr. Winters and a second by Mr. Stelling to approve the right-of-way public utility encroachment agreement with ODOT as per item 15 in the agenda. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Winters,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Item 16, discussion and action to approve right-of-way public utility and encroachment agreement for ODOT project number J3-2807-004SS. This is basically the same scenario, except it's going to be, let's see, north and east of town?
No, it's
Or
going to
just
be,
north?
it's actually going to be south. So the project starts 1.4 miles south
okay.
of Junction. So basically, it's from College in Oklahoma, 1.4 miles south. So we'll go down past the airport. They're repaving that road. The way the wording is really strange, though, how they did it. So it says it starts 1.4 miles south and extends north. So
Yeah, they
1.4
kind of
miles.
made it circular and weird instead of just
Yeah.
starting here and going 1.4 miles
It
south.
really threw me off too.
Yeah, it took me a minute, so.
Yeah, I didn't mention it in the other one, but, you know, for the age of some of our water and sewer lines, this is going to get them replaced. What would be a significant cost for the city for us to do it. So,
This project, the replacement, I didn't cut you off, I apologize. This project, the replacement is over $3 million to move and replace those lines. So that's big for us.
Is this the junction, like about the corner by the hotel or the one by the college itself? Okay, because they're both technically the same
Yes,
thing.
over by the college.
Okay.
But on 1.4, it kind of, 0.4 is probably close to the middle of the airport. I mean, it doesn't finish out the,
I believe it extends past the airport, Randy.
because that'd be 2 miles to the road south of the airport. I mean, south of like John Deere.
No, it is, when I talked to him on the phone, he said it extended past the airport, but you are correct.
it
It's,
extends past the driveway.
yeah,
Kind of,
Where it's addressed at.
yeah.
If there's not any other questions, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve right-of-way public utility and encroachment agreement for ODOT project number J3-2807-004SS.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Winters and a second by Mr. Wallace to approve right-of-way public utility encroachment agreement for ODOT project number J3-2807-004SS. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Winters,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Stelling,
yes.
Eckhart.
Yes.
Items 17 through 25 are appointments or reappointments to various commissions, committees for the city of Alva. I have spoken with all of these people, and they are willing to serve. If they're replacing someone, it is after voluntary resignation, and I look through here.
I would say that one would be the only one that would be on, and his term expired in 2019. We just didn't get it taken care of.
Oh. We can't, okay, so the one that is odd is on 25. That's going to be Matt Tucker. Either we don't have documentation of it or it didn't happen. Could be either. But in 2019, Mr. Tucker needed to be reappointed to the Rec Park Board. So his term will be a 3-year term from then. So it's October 2022 end of term. Council members, if you have any questions on either one of these, we could maybe ask them now, and then we can go through one, we're gonna have to vote on them one at a time, but if we can speed up the process a little bit going through that vote, that'd be great. Is there any questions? All right. Item 17 is discussion and action on the mayor's reappointment of Caleb Mossberg to the Alva Regional Airport Commission for an unexpired term ending on June 2025.
Make a motion, we approve Caleb Mossberg to the Alva Regional Airport Commission for an unexpired term ending in June 2025.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Eckhart, second by Mr. Sherman to reappoint Caleb Mossberg to the Airport Commission. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Item 18 is discussion and action on the mayor's appointment of Tanja Lewis to the Cemetery Board for an unexpired term ending June 2023.
Motion to approve Tanja Lewis to the Cemetery Board for an unexpired term ending in June 2023.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Sherman, a second by Mr. Winters to appoint Tanja Lewis to the Cemetery Board. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Sherman,
Yes.
Winters,
Yes.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Stelling.
Yes.
Item 19 is discussion and action on the mayor's reappointment of Jared Hayden to the Board of Adjustments for an unexpired term ending June 2023.
Motion to approve Jared Hayden to the Board of Adjustments for an unexpired term ending in June 2023.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Sherman, a second by Mr. Eckhart to reappoint Jared Hayden to the Board of Adjustments. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Sherman,
Yes.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Winters,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Stelling.
Yes.
Item 20 is discussion and action on the mayor's appointment of Greg Bowman to the Board of Adjustments for an unexpired term ending June 2023.
I'll make a motion to appoint Greg Bowman to the Board of Adjustments for an unexpired term ending in June 2023.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Wallace, a second by Mr. Stelling to appoint Greg Bowman to the Board of Adjustments. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Wallace,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Winters,
Yes.
Eckhart.
Yes.
Item 21 is discussion and action on the mayor's reappointment of Matt Adair to the Planning Commission for an unexpired term ending June 2023.
Motion to reappoint Matt Adair to the Planning Commission for an unexpired term ending in June 2023.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Sherman, a second by Mr. Winters to reappoint Matt Adair to the Planning Commission. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Sherman,
Yes.
Winters,
Yes.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes.
Item 22 is discussion and action on the mayor's reappointment of Linda Joseph to the Library Board for an unexpired term ending June 2023.
Motion to approve Linda Joseph to the Library Board, an unexpired term ending in 2023.
Second.
June 2023, sorry.
I have a motion by Mr. Sherman, a second by Mr. Wallace to reappoint Linda Joseph to the Library Board. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Sherman,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Item 23 is discussion and action on the mayor's reappointment of Connor Martin to the Tourism Tax Commission for an unexpired term ending June 2024.
Motion to approve Connor Martin to the Tourism Tax Commission for an unexpired term ending in June 2024.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Sherman, a second by Mr. Stelling to reappoint Connor Martin to the Tourism Tax Commission. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Sherman,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Winters,
Yes.
Eckhart.
Yes.
Item 24 is discussion and action on the mayor's mayor's appointment of Melinda Bartman. Golly. Start over. Mayor's appointment of Melinda Barton to the Tourism Tax Commission for an unexpired term ending June 2024.
Motion to approve Melinda Barton to the Tourism Tax Commission for an unexpired term ending in June 2024.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Sherman and a second by Mr. Winters to appoint Melinda Barton to the Tourism Tax Commission. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Sherman,
Yes.
Winters,
Yes.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Stelling.
Yes.
Item 25 is discussion and action on the mayor's reappointment of Matt Tucker to the Alva Recreation Complex Board for an unexpired term ending in October 2022.
Motion to approve the appointment of Matt Tucker to the Alva Recreation Board for an unexpired term ending in October 2022.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Sherman, a second by Mr. Stelling to reappoint Matt Tucker to the Alva Recreation Complex Board. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Sherman,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Winters,
Yes.
Eckhart.
Yes.
Thank you. Item 26, new business. We don't have any new business. Item 27, remarks and inquiries by council members. Item 28 is to adjourn. And we'll call to order the regular Alva Utility Authority meeting. When you're ready, Shelley, will you please call the roll?
Winters,
Here.
Martin, Eckhart,
Here.
Sherman,
Here.
Hannaford, Hamilton, Wallace,
Here.
Stelling.
Here.
Item 3 is discussion and action on the consent agenda. All of the following items which concern reports and items of a routine nature normally approved at AUA meetings will be approved by one vote of the authority. Any trustee desiring to discuss an item on the consent agenda may request that it be removed from the consent agenda and placed for discussion as the next item on the regular agenda. It will then be considered separately. The consent agenda consists of the consideration and action on the following items: approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of September 21st, 2020, approval of claims in the amount of $10,208.47, and payroll expenses of $52,916.07. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Sherman with a second by Mr. Stelling to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Sherman,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
All right, Utility Authority meeting is adjourned, and we will open the regular Alva Economic Development Authority meeting. When you're ready, please call the roll.
Stelling,
Here.
Hamilton, Sherman,
Here.
Martin, Wallace,
Here.
Hannaford, Eckhart,
Here.
Winters.
Here.
Item 3 is discussion and action on the consent agenda. All of the following items which concern reports and items of a routine nature normally approved at AEDA meetings will be approved by one vote of the authority. Any trustee desiring to discuss an item on the consent agenda may request that it be removed from the consent agenda and placed for discussion as the next item on the regular agenda. It will then be considered separately. The consent agenda consists of the consideration and action on the following items: approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of September 21st, 2020, approval of claims in the amount of $21,119.36, and payroll expenses of $15,111.78. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Winters with a second by Mr. Wallace to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Winters,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Stelling.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.